The rain fell hard that night, cold and sharp like tiny needles. Ethan Cole, a middle-aged mechanic, stood inside his small workshop, the smell of oil and metal filling the air. His old radio played softly in the background, but the sound of thunder often drowned it. He wiped his hands with a dirty cloth and thought about closing early. It was too quiet outside, too dark. Most people had gone home hours ago, hiding from the storm. Ethan stepped to the door and looked out. The street was empty, except for the flicker of a broken streetlight. Water flowed in the gutters, carrying leaves and trash, but then something caught his eye, a small movement near the alley. He narrowed his eyes, trying to see through the rain. Two small figures huddled together, their shapes trembling in the cold. At first, he thought they were kids from the neighborhood, maybe lost. But as he stepped closer, he saw their faces under the dim light. They weren't ordinary children. Their eyes glowed faintly, like pale blue lanterns in the dark. Their skin was smooth and strange, with a faint shimmer like moonlight. They wore clothes that looked torn and burned, not like anything from Earth. Ethan froze for a second, his mind racing. He had heard crazy stories about aliens on the late-night news, but he never believed them. Now standing in front of him were two living proofs. The smaller one was shivering hard, her lips pale. The taller one wrapped an arm around her protectively. They looked scared, like animals cornered by a predator. Ethan raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. "Hey," he said softly, "you're gonna freeze out here. Come inside." The taller girl's glowing eyes narrowed in suspicion. The smaller one looked at her, whispering something in a language he didn't understand. For a moment, Ethan thought they might run away. But then, a loud crack of thunder made them flinch, and they followed him into the shop. The warmth of the heater hit them instantly. They stood near the doorway, dripping water onto the floor. Ethan walked to the small kitchen in the back and started heating some soup. The smell filled the air, rich and comforting. He brought 2 bowls to the workbench and set them down. "Eat," he said, pushing them gently toward the food. They hesitated at first, looking at each other. Then slowly, they began to eat. The smaller one devoured the soup quickly, like she hadn't eaten in days. The taller one ate more slowly, keeping her eyes on Ethan. It was clear she didn't trust him yet. Ethan didn't blame her. When they finished, he gave them each an old blanket from the storage room. The smaller girl smiled at him, and for the first time, he noticed how young they really were, maybe 12 or 13 at most. But there was something in their faces, something older, heavier, like they had seen things no child should see. They spoke softly to each other in that strange language. Ethan didn't understand a word, but the tone was gentle, almost musical. After a while, the taller one stepped closer to him. Her glowing eyes softened a little. She placed a hand on his arm and said slowly, in broken English, "One day, we will return for you." Ethan gave a short laugh, shaking his head. "Sure, kid," he said. "You just take care of yourselves." But before he could ask where they were from or what had happened to them, they stepped back toward the door. The storm outside had calmed a little. The taller one opened the door. Looking out into the night, the smaller girl gave it one last look, a look filled with something strange, something almost like gratitude mixed with sorrow. And then, they were gone, disappearing into the shadows of the wet streets. Ethan stood there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway. The rain kept falling, the wind howled, and the world felt oddly silent. He had 100 questions in his head. Who were they? Where did they come from? Why were they alone? But he knew one thing for sure. That night was no ordinary night. Something had just stepped into his life, and he had no idea how much it would change his future. 10 years passed since that stormy night. Ethan Cole's life had gone on almost the same. He still worked in his small repair shop, fixing old machines and broken vehicles. The streets outside had changed a little. New buildings here and there, but his world stayed small. He never told many people about the 2 strange girls. When he did, they laughed, thinking it was just a story he made up to pass the time, sometimes late at night. When the shop was quiet and the only sound was the ticking clock, he thought about them. He remembered their glowing eyes, the strange shimmer of their skin, the way the smaller one had smiled despite her fear, and the way the taller one had promised, in broken English, "We will return for you." Ethan always smiled at that memory. Though part of him knew it was just a child's words, they had probably forgotten about him long ago. Still, there were moments that made him wonder. A few times he had read strange reports on the news, stories about unusual lights in the sky, unidentified ships moving silently above the clouds. Once, a photograph appeared online, a blurry image of two tall armored figures stepping out of a glowing craft. The picture was quickly taken down. Ethan stared at the screen before it vanished. For a second, he thought he saw those same glowing eyes from years ago, but he told himself it was impossible. Life moved on, and Ethan focused on his work. Business was not great, but it paid the bills. He had no family left in town, no wife or children. His only companion was an old dog named Rusty, who slept most of the day near the workshop heater. People in town knew him as a quiet man who kept to himself. He liked it that way. One rainy afternoon, Ethan was repairing an old hover bike in the shop. The smell of burnt circuits filled the air as he worked. The radio was on low volume, playing the daily news then. The announcer mentioned something that made him pause. A luxury starship, never before seen on Earth, was spotted entering our atmosphere this morning. Authorities have refused to comment on its origin. Ethan froze, the memory of that promise from 10 years ago flashing in his mind. He shook his head and kept working. Ships came and went these days. Earth had slowly opened to trade with a few alien species. Still, a voice inside him whispered that this was different. That night, as he locked up the shop, he noticed the sky was strangely quiet. The usual city noises seemed muted, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Ethan walked home through the dim streets. Rusty trotted beside him, his ears twitching at every sound. They passed the old alley where he had first seen the girls. It looked smaller now, but he could still picture them huddled together in the rain. He stopped for a moment, staring at the empty space. "Wherever you are," he muttered softly, "I hope you made it." Over the next few days, strange things began happening. Ethan noticed men in dark uniforms walking around town. They weren't from local law enforcement. Their badges had symbols he didn't recognize. They moved in pairs, scanning the streets with small devices that beeped faintly. One of them stopped outside Ethan's shop one morning. Their eyes swept over him for just a second before they walked away. It made him uneasy. On the fourth night, the sky lit up with a faint golden glow. Ethan stood outside his workshop, watching the horizon. It wasn't like any sunset or storm he had ever seen. The light moved, almost as if it was alive, shifting in waves. Rusty growled softly, his fur standing up. Ethan felt his heart beat faster for reasons he couldn't explain. That night, he dreamed of the girls again. He saw them standing in a vast metal corridor, dressed in shining armor. The taller one looked at him with the same calm, protective eyes as before. The smaller one smiled and said, "It's time." Ethan woke with a start, the sound of a distant hum echoing in his ears. He sat up in bed, wondering if the dream was really just a dream. The next morning, the town was buzzing with rumors. People claimed they had seen a massive ship hovering beyond the hills. Some said it was military, others swore it was alien. Ethan didn't join the gossip, but inside, he felt a strange certainty. Something or someone was coming, and he had a feeling it was connected to a promise made long ago. What Ethan didn't know was that, far above the planet, in the silent darkness of space, two figures stood on the deck of a luxury starship. They looked down at the blue world below. One of them spoke in a firm voice. "Set course for his location." The other nodded, her eyes glowing faintly after 10 long years. They were finally coming back for him. It was early morning when the sound began. At first, Ethan thought it was thunder, low and distant, rolling across the sky. But then it grew deeper, steadier, almost like a heartbeat in the air. The coffee in his mug rippled with each pulse. Rusty lifted his head from the corner. Ears twitching, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Ethan stepped outside his shop. The cold air biting at his skin. He looked up, and his breath caught in his throat. The clouds above were splitting apart in a perfect circle, through the gap. A massive shape emerged, shining in the morning light. It wasn't like any ship he had ever seen. Its surface gleamed with gold and silver lines that seemed to shift and move like flowing water. The hull reflected the sun in dazzling flashes, making it look alive. The sound grew louder as the ship descended. It moved slowly, gracefully, despite its enormous size. People in the street stopped and stared, some pulling out devices to record. Others ran inside, fear in their eyes. The ship passed low over the rooftops, casting a huge shadow that swallowed the entire street. Ethan couldn't move. He felt as if the world had narrowed down to just him and the thing in the sky. The ship tilted slightly, aligning itself above his workshop. Then, with a deep hum, it began to land in the empty lot beside the building. Dust and loose papers flew in all directions. Rusty barked furiously but didn't dare run forward. The landing gear touched the ground with a soft, almost delicate motion. The humming stopped, leaving behind an eerie silence. For a moment, nothing happened. The massive ship just sat there, gleaming, alien, and impossibly beautiful. Then, with a hiss of escaping air, a long ramp extended from the underside. Bright blue lights traced along its edges, leading down to the earth. Ethan's heart pounded. Every muscle in his body told him to step back, to hide, but his feet stayed planted, as if waiting for something his mind couldn't yet understand. Two figures appeared at the top of the ramp, their silhouettes tall and powerful. As they descended, the light revealed their faces. Ethan's breath caught. He knew them. The first was taller, her armor shining like polished silver with streaks of deep blue. Her glowing eyes locked on him instantly. The second was slightly shorter, her armor etched with gold patterns, her smile faint but warm. They were older now, their faces sharper, their presence commanding. But Ethan would never forget those eyes. The two orphan girls from 10 years ago were standing before him. Now grown into warriors, they stopped a few steps away. The taller one spoke first, her voice calm but carrying a weight of authority. "Ethan Cole," she said. He swallowed hard, unsure what to say. "You remember us," she continued, though it sounded more like a statement than a question. The shorter one stepped forward, her smile widening just a little. "You gave us warmth when we had nothing," she said softly. "You fed us when others would have turned away." Her words carried an accent, but her English was now clear and strong. Ethan blinked, still trying to process what he was seeing. You were just kids," he said slowly. "Now you're captains in the Galactic fleet," the taller one finished for him. "My name is Captain Arya, and this is Commander Lyra." They both stood tall, their armor gleaming, their presence almost unreal. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. This doesn't make sense," he muttered. Arya's expression softened, just slightly. "You once saved us," she said. "Now we have come to repay that debt." Her tone carried no hesitation, no doubt. It was not a gesture of gratitude. It was a vow. Ethan felt the weight of her words. He had never thought that a simple act of kindness would bring him here. Lyra stepped closer, lowering her voice. "There are things you do not know," she said, "and dangers you cannot yet see." Her eyes flicked to the sky for just a moment, as if watching for something. "But for now, all you need to understand is that we are here for you." The ramp behind them glowed brighter. From inside the ship, Ethan could see glimpses of strange corridors, alien technology, and movement. Other crew members watching silently. The air smelled faintly of something sweet and metallic. Ethan realized his hands were shaking. "I'm just a mechanic," he said, almost to himself. Arya gave a small smile, the first sign of warmth in her otherwise serious expression. "You are much more than that," she said, "and soon you will see why." The wind shifted. carrying with it a strange energy that made Ethan's skin tingle. Rusty whined softly, pressing against his leg. Ethan knew, deep down, that his life was about to change forever. He looked at the towering ship, the alien warriors who had once been frightened children, and for the first time in years, he felt something he couldn't explain, a mix of fear, wonder, and an unshakable pull toward the stars. The morning air felt heavy around Ethan. The golden light from the ship cast strange shadows across the ground. Arya and Lyra stood in front of him like living statues, their armor gleaming. In the pale sun, neither of them looked rushed, yet there was an urgency in their presence. A quiet pressure that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Arya took a slow step forward. "When you found us," she began, her voice steady. "We were not simply lost children." Her glowing eyes locked onto his, as if she was making sure he understood every word. "We were fugitives hunted by enemies who wanted us dead." Lyra's gaze softened as she added, "You didn't ask questions, you didn't turn us away. You gave us food, warmth, and safety for one night." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what anyone would have done," he said quietly. Arya shook her head, her tone firm. "No, most would have turned us in for a reward. Or worse, they would have ignored us." Her words carried a weight that made Ethan's chest tighten. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low and almost personal. "That night, you changed our fate, and because of that, we swore an oath." Ethan frowned. "An oath?" he asked. Arya nodded slowly. "In our culture, a life saved is a life owed, not in part, but in full." She reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out a small metallic emblem. It shimmered in the sunlight, covered in intricate alien symbols. "This is a token of royal debt," she explained. "It means we are bound to protect you until our last breath." The words hit Ethan like a punch. He looked at the emblem, then back at them. You're serious about this?" he asked. Lyra gave him a faint smile. "You'll learn quickly, Ethan Cole. When we make a vow, we keep it." Before he could respond, a faint sound reached his ears. It was a high-pitched hum, distant, but growing. Arya's expression hardened instantly. She turned her head slightly, speaking in her own language into a small device on her wrist. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the urgency in her tone was clear. Lyra placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "We need to speak inside the ship," she said. "It is not safe out here." Ethan hesitated, glancing back at his workshop. "I can't just leave," he began. Arya cut him off, her voice sharp. "You can, and you must, unless you want to face what's coming." The humming sound grew louder. Ethan felt the ground tremble beneath his boots. In the distance, dark shapes appeared in the sky, moving fast. They weren't human aircraft. Their design was sharp, predatory, like the wings of metal birds. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They found us sooner than expected," she said. Arya turned to Ethan. "You're already a target, whether you understand why or not," Rusty barked furiously, sensing the tension. Ethan looked between the alien women and the approaching ships. His heart pounded in his ears. "You're telling me those things are coming for me?" he asked. Arya's tone was grim. "They are coming for us all, but you are the key, and they will not hesitate to kill you." Before Ethan could argue, Arya pressed something on her wrist device. The ship's ramp lit up brighter, and a deep metallic voice echoed from within. "Shields ready, Captain. Weapons primed." Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him gently but firmly toward the ramp. "Inside now," she ordered, as they moved. The first of the enemy ships fired. A beam of red energy tore through the sky, striking the ground just beyond the empty lot. The shockwave knocked Ethan off his feet, but Lyra caught him before he hit the ground. Her strength was incredible. She lifted him as if he weighed nothing. They rushed up the ramp as more blasts shook the earth. Ethan heard the roar of engines and the scream of alien weapons all around them. Inside the ship, the air was warmer, filled with a faint hum of energy. Ethan's eyes darted across the sleek corridors. lined with glowing panels and strange symbols. Arya barked orders in her language, her voice echoing through the ship. Crew members moved quickly, their armor gleaming under the lights. Lyra guided Ethan to a reinforced chamber, the walls thick and pulsing with blue light. "This is the safest place for now," she told him. Ethan's mind spun. He had been fixing hover bikes a few hours ago. Now he was on a luxury alien warship, under attack from unknown enemies. "Why me?" he asked again, his voice almost a whisper. Lyra looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Because your kindness 10 years ago didn't just save 2 lives, Ethan. It saved the future of an entire people." Her words hung in the air, heavy and impossible to ignore. Outside, the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Inside, Ethan felt the world he knew slipping further and further away. And deep down, he knew there was no going back. The ship's engines roared as it climbed higher into the sky. Ethan felt the vibration under his boots, a steady, powerful hum that made him realize just how massive this vessel truly was. He stood inside the reinforced chamber, still trying to make sense of everything. Moments ago, he had been in his workshop. Now he was aboard a luxury alien warship. Leaving Earth behind, Arya entered the room, her armor scratched from the attack, but her posture calm and steady. Lyra followed close behind, carrying a small device that projected a floating image in the air. Ethan stared. The hologram showed a vast star map, filled with glowing points of light. Some were red, others green, and a few pulsed with a soft golden glow. Arya pointed to a cluster of red lights near the center. "These are enemy worlds," she said, her tone firm. "They belong to the Krith Dominion, a ruthless empire that has conquered hundreds of systems." Her finger moved to a set of green lights on the far side of the map. "These are our allied territories, the Galactic Fleet." Ethan crossed his arms, still overwhelmed. "And where exactly do I fit into this?" he asked. Lyra tapped the device, and the map shifted to focus on a single golden point near the border between red and green space. "This is the House of Solara," she explained. "Our home, our bloodline, and the reason you are here." Arya's gaze locked on Ethan. "When you found us 10 years ago, we were the last surviving heirs of Solara," she said. "Our family had been hunted, our world destroyed, and our enemies thought we were dead." She paused, her voice carrying the weight of memory. "But you gave us a chance to live, and now we lead the fleet against those same enemies." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "This is a lot to take in," he muttered. Arya nodded, as if she had expected his reaction. "I will be direct," she said. "The Krith Dominion knows who you are, Ethan Cole. They know that the man who saved us is still alive, and they will come for you, not just to kill you, but to use you against us." Lyra stepped forward, her voice softer. "We cannot protect you on Earth. It's too exposed, too vulnerable. But here with us, you will be under the fleet's shield, and more than that, you will be part of something far greater than you've ever known." Ethan blinked. "Are you inviting me to join you?" he asked slowly. Arya's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Yes, not as a soldier, but as an honored member of our command. Your kindness bound us together in a way few will ever understand. Now we ask you to stand with us as we fight for the freedom of countless worlds." Ethan looked down at his hands. They were the hands of a mechanic, scarred, dirty, used to fixing engines and patching broken parts. He wasn't a fighter, he wasn't a leader, and yet something in their voices stirred a feeling he hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose. Before he could answer, the ship jolted violently. An alarm blared through the corridors, and a voice echoed over the comms in an alien language. Arya's expression hardened. "They're trying to intercept us before we reach safe space," she said. Lyra pressed a button on the wall, and the holographic map shifted to show multiple red dots closing in on their position. Ethan's pulse quickened. "You're telling me I have to decide whether to go with you, right now while we're under attack?" he asked. Arya gave a single nod. There is no more time. If you say no, we will take you back to Earth. But you will be hunted. And sooner or later, they will find you. She stepped closer, her glowing eyes locked on his. If you say yes, you will never have to face them alone. The weight of her words pressed down on him. Rusty sat at his feet, looking up at him with quiet trust. Ethan thought of the small shop, the quiet nights, the life he had built, and then he thought of that stormy night 10 years ago. 2 frightened girls, cold and starving, looking at him with desperate eyes. He had chosen to help them without thinking. Now, they were offering him the same choice. Another jolt shook the ship, this one harder than before. The lights flickered, and distant weapons fire echoed through the hull. Lyra held out her hand, her expression both urgent and hopeful. Come with us, Ethan. Your place is out there. Among the stars, she said. Your life matters more than you know. Ethan hesitated only for a heartbeat. Then he took her hand. All right, he said quietly. I'm in. Lyra's smile returned, and Arya gave a short nod. Then you are under our protection, from this moment until the end, she said. The ship surged forward, engines roaring as it jumped into faster-than-light travel. Earth vanished from view, replaced by the endless, glittering expanse of the galaxy. Ethan stood there, feeling the pull of destiny stronger than ever. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but one thing was certain. He had just stepped into a story far bigger than his own. Asterisk. The stars stretched out before Ethan like an endless sea of light. From the viewing deck of the ship, he could see worlds drifting in the distance, their colors glowing like jewels in the black. Some shone in shades of blue and green, others burned in fiery orange and red. It was more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. Back on Earth, the night sky had always felt distant, unreachable. Now it surrounded him completely. Rusty lay at his feet, strangely calm, his eyes following the shifting light outside. Ethan knelt and scratched behind his ear. Well, boy, he said quietly. I guess this is our new home now. The dog wagged his tail slowly, as if agreeing. Arya stepped onto the deck, her armor replaced with a lighter uniform that shimmered faintly in the soft light. Lyra followed, carrying 2 cups of a steaming blue liquid. This is Karen tea, Lyra explained, handing him one. It will help you adjust to the shift in gravity and atmosphere. Ethan sniffed it. The scent was sweet but also metallic, like rain on warm stone. He took a cautious sip. Surprised by the warmth that spread through his chest, Arya moved to stand beside him, looking out at the stars. You will see many worlds, she said, her voice quiet but firm. Some beautiful, some dangerous, but each with its own story. Ethan turned to her. I'm still trying to figure out why I'm here, he admitted. I mean, I get the danger part, but you could have hidden me anywhere. Why bring me into the middle of all this? Arya's expression didn't change, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of thought she wasn't ready to share. You will understand soon, she said simply. For now, we want you to see what you helped save. The next few days passed in a blur. The ship visited several allied worlds to resupply and refuel on one planet. Ethan walked through markets filled with alien fruits that glowed softly in the dark. Merchants called out in languages he couldn't understand. Their stalls piled high with fabrics that shimmered like liquid and strange metal trinkets that hummed faintly when touched. On another world, he stood on the edge of a floating city, its towers spiraling upward into clouds of silver mist. The air was filled with the sound of wind chimes made from crystal. Below, giant sea creatures moved through glowing waters, their massive fins sending ripples of light across the surface. Everywhere they went, Ethan noticed something. The way people treated Arya and Lyra. It wasn't just respect, it was reverence. When the sisters walked through the streets, heads bowed, conversations stopped. They were more than soldiers. They were symbols, living proof of survival against impossible odds. One evening, while the ship was in orbit above a small moon, Ethan joined Lyra in one of the training halls. She moved like liquid steel, striking and blocking with perfect precision against a practice drone. Her armor flashed with every hit, her glowing eyes never leaving her target. When she finished, she handed Ethan a small practice blade. "Try," she said, her tone calm but firm. Ethan laughed nervously. "I fix machines, I don't fight them," he said, but she only tilted her head. "Today, you learn. Tomorrow, you might need it." The training was harder than he expected. The blade was light, but the drone moved fast, striking at him from angles he couldn't predict. Lyra guided his movements, correcting his stance. "Fighting isn't just strength," she explained. "It's timing. It's knowing when not to move as much as when to strike." By the end, Ethan was sweating and out of breath. Lyra gave him a small smile. "Better than I expected," she said, "but you still have much to learn." Later that night, Ethan wandered back to the viewing deck. The galaxy stretched before him again, but this time, it felt different. He was no longer just an observer. He was part of something bigger, something alive. Arya found him there, her voice quiet as she approached. "We will soon reach Solara Prime," she said. "It is the heart of our people, and the place where you will learn the truth." Ethan turned to her. "The truth about what?" he asked. Her gaze didn't waver. "The real reason we brought you here," she replied. Before he could press further, an alarm sounded. A crew member's voice came over the comms. Urgent and sharp, unidentified vessels approaching at high velocity. Arya's expression hardened instantly. "They found us again," she said. Lyra appeared a moment later, her hand on her weapon. "Ethan, stay close," she ordered. "We're almost home, but first, we have to survive." The welcoming party. The ship's shields flared to life as enemy craft emerged from the darkness, their weapons glowing like angry stars. Ethan gripped the rail, feeling the deck shudder beneath his feet. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The answers he wanted were close, but so was the danger that had been chasing him since that night 10 years ago. The enemy ships swarmed around them like wolves circling prey. The luxury starship's shields blazed with energy as blasts of red light slammed against them. Ethan stood near the edge of the command deck, gripping a metal railing while the crew moved quickly around him. Arya's voice cut through the chaos as she issued orders in her native tongue, her tone sharp and unshakable. Lyra stood at the weapons console, her hands flying over glowing controls, returning fire with precision. Ethan felt the deck tremble with every hit. Rusty was at his side, ears flat, low growls rumbling in his chest. The ship banked hard to the right, sending Ethan stumbling into the wall. Arya caught him before he fell. "Hold steady," she said. "We're almost through." A sudden flash lit the viewing windows. A massive enemy cruiser had appeared from behind a moon, its size dwarfing the other ships. "They brought a flagship," Lyra said grimly. Arya's eyes narrowed. "They want him," she said, nodding toward Ethan. He froze. "Me?" he asked. "Why?" "I'm just a mechanic." Arya didn't answer right away. Instead, she gave a single command to the pilot, and the ship surged forward, engines roaring as they made a break for open space. The enemy pursued, but the fleet vessel was faster, weaving between asteroid fields until the red blips on the radar began to fade. Finally, after what felt like hours, the tension on the bridge eased. The crew let out quiet breaths of relief. They had made it, at least for now. Arya turned to Ethan. "Come with me," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. She led him through the ship's corridors until they reached a sealed chamber at the heart of the vessel. The door slid open with a low hiss, revealing a round room lit by a soft golden glow. At its center was a tall crystal-like structure, pulsing slowly with light. Strange symbols shimmered across its surface like moving water. Ethan stepped inside, his voice low. "What is this place?" Lyra entered behind him, sealing the door. "This," she said, "is the heart of Solara, the last piece of our homeworld." Ethan stared at it, feeling a strange warmth on his skin as he got closer. The light from the crystal seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. He reached out instinctively, but Arya's voice stopped him. "Careful," she warned. "This is not just a relic, it is alive in a way. It holds the memories, the history, and the power of our people." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "And you, Ethan Cole, are the only one who can awaken it." Ethan blinked. "Me? That's impossible. I don't even know what this thing is." Arya's voice was calm but firm. "It is not impossible. It is the reason you are here. 10 years ago, when you gave us shelter, the heart marked you. Our people's technology is living. It chooses those it trusts, those it sees as worthy." Ethan shook his head. "You're telling me this thing chose me?" "That night?" Lyra nodded. "When we left you, the heart carried a fragment of its energy with us. It bonded to you through your act of compassion. You didn't just save our lives, you became part of the heart's legacy." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "So that's why they've been chasing me all this time?" "Yes," Arya said. "The Krith Dominion knows that if you awaken the heart, our people will rise stronger than ever. They want to capture you, to force you to use its power for them, or destroy you to ensure we never can." The weight of her words settled over him. Ethan looked at the crystal again, its golden light reflecting in his eyes. For a moment, he remembered the rain-soaked night, the two frightened girls, the warm soup, the blankets. He had never thought that small choice would lead here. But now he understood. It had been the start of everything. Lyra stepped closer, her voice gentle but certain. "You don't have to fight alone. We are bound to you by honor and by blood. Whatever you choose, we will stand beside you until the end." Arya placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is your decision, Ethan. Will you awaken the heart and lead our people into a new age, or turn away and let the galaxy fall?" Ethan looked between them, then back at the crystal. The pulsing light seemed to call to him, steady and warm. He thought about Earth, small, fragile, and still struggling to find its place among the stars. He thought about Solara, a world he had never seen, yet somehow felt connected to. And finally, he thought about the two girls he had once saved, now standing before him as leaders of a people fighting for survival. He took a deep breath. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's finish what we started 10 years ago." Arya and Lyra both bowed their heads in silent respect. Ethan stepped forward, placing his hand against the crystal. The golden light flared instantly, flooding the room with warmth and energy. Symbols danced faster across its surface, the pulse matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. In that moment, Ethan felt something awaken deep inside him, a connection to the heart, to Solara, to the sisters, and to the galaxy itself. Far away, across countless star systems, sensors lit up and warnings flashed in enemy ships. The heart of Solara had awakened, and the man who carried its bond was ready to fight.